So one of my favorite places to go is the West Coast of the United States. You got mountains meeting the ocean, and all kinds of interesting things happen at these intersections. So, I'm a big systems person, and I build big stuff. I'm an architect. I build big stuff. And California and Oregon and Washington State, British Columbia, El Baja, full of dreamers and engineers. And so places like this really get me excited and going because there's so much problem solving that needs to be done. So when my kids were young, I took my family out to the Monterey Bay area just because I wanted to show it to them and share with them all the excitement around that. And we would go, to the aquarium because when you got young ones, you need activities. You need an activity director, so you do activities. And aquariums are great places to go. I don't know how the kids felt about it, but it was pretty good for me. And the other thing is that I might have an inch of control while I'm there because I can decode the building. I know where the bathrooms are. I can find these things quickly. And if you're a parent, you've just identified the fallacy of my position because you know that there's absolutely no control. But hey, I was young at this and I'm doing my best to keep it going. So I'm there at the aquarium and we've seen this one or two or three exhibits several times. And one year we're there and a buddy of mine connects me with another buddy of his, and she is a researcher in oceanography. And she's going to give us a tour of that same exhibit. So we do that. And she explains the research that she and her colleagues are doing there out there in the Monterey Bay Trench. And so there we are seeing, I think it was the jellies, and she's explaining what's happening to their ecology, to their environment. And it comes down to this. We're making soda water in the oceans, basically. So we know high school or even middle school earth science says when I breathe out, I'm creating CO2. And that CO2 gets absorbed by the plants. And it's pretty good balance because the plants are kicking O2 back to me. That's fantastic. We're really excited about that. It's a nice relationship. When we start building fires, that's all releasing CO2. So CO2 has three places to go. Plants take it up in photosynthesis and they make trees. It's kind of cool. And then whatever they don't use goes up into the atmosphere. And the atmosphere is think about it like a closet. You could just keep packing stuff in there until you can't pack stuff in anymore. It just sort of spills out on the floor. And where does it go? Where does that extra CO2 go? Well, it's kind of like the soda bottle thing you can get for your house, which is you take regular tap water, plug it into this thing, hit the button, you get CO2 injected into that, and suddenly you have a carbonated beverage. Fantastic. And why is a carbonated beverage, just plain carbonated water, just different? Why does it taste different? I don't know, but I kind of like it. And so the reason is that it's slightly acidic. So it hits my tongue differently, which is pretty cool. But it's not so cool, she explained, our good friend walking us through, kind of a hero to me, walking us through this exhibit, because the pH balance in the oceans is pretty narrow. It needs to hit a pretty narrow windows to sustain life. And that little bit of extra acid that's in there, it makes carbonic acid is the chemical thing. It interferes with the ability of crustaceans to form shells. And that has impacts all up and down the food chain, including food sources for whales. It also has all these other impacts on the rest of the marine ecosystems. So packing the ocean with CO2, not such a good idea. So thank you very much. And we get to the end of this exhibit, and I've been to this ending here a few times, and it's explained all of this in its way, but she brought it to life in a different way that for some reason I heard differently. And there's three things. There's this little section of the exhibit at the very end that says, you know, you can do something about this CO2. There's 3 things you can do. Number 1, make a contribution to the aquarium, which seemed a little self-serving, but I can go along with it. It's a cool place. I get that my funding would, you know, my contribution to their funding would help them continue to do projects like this, help us find some answers. Second thing I could do is recycle, which at the time I didn't understand, which is very unusual, as I will explain later, but hopefully I'll explain it later. But the third thing I could do is I could get a power strip and I could plug my computer into the power strip. I'm not so sure that one's going to work. And I'll tell you why. I'm an architect, and I can tell you precisely how I'm going to figure out how much power that power strip, if you turn it off, like the idea was, if you put both items on a power strip and you hit the power strip, all of it gets turned off. I can tell you for a fact that that is barely a peep of the amount of power that's being used by your house. So while the rest of the explanations all made some sense, this one didn't, and I have a lot of questions. And what I've done with those questions is the subject of the rest of this story.